everyone, welcome back to my channel. Today is a bit of a weird video. I'm basically doing a weird sort of wrap up. It's sort of a monthly wrap up, but it sort of isn't. I'm deep diving into like 3 books that I read this month, and the reason for that is because this month I didn't really want to do a reading wrap up just because a lot of the books I read this month are being used for a different video, which is a reading vlog, which is coming soon, so stay tuned. So I just thought it was weird to talk about the same books in the same video. So I read 3 books other than the ones I'm going to be talking about in the next video in May. And then 2 of those books are actually part of a series. So I'm sort of got, which is a series that you probably can guess what series it is. It's a series I mentioned a lot on this channel, mainly because I've just been slowly reading it, and I finally am up to date with it. Sorry, I just stepped. Up to date with it. So I'll be talking about that. Also, one of them, you can probably, actually, I'm going to put the books that I'm going to talk about in the thumbnail. So it's not even worth me talking about it. I'm just going to get right into it. My brain is really fried right now. So I just wanted to make a nice, cute, cozy video, just raving about books. My brain, honestly, I started editing on Premiere Pro instead of iMovie. It's a learning curve. There is a steep learning curve, and I'm contemplating getting rid of Premiere Pro and trying Final Cut Pro because I heard it's more user-friendly, but I like the idea of being able to learn Premiere Pro, you know, and I also love that I will be able to get Photoshop, all the things I need with the Adobe thing. Anyway, you guys don't need to know this, but that's just what I'm going through right now. So the first book I'm going to talk about, because the other books are part of the series, so the first book I'm going to talk about is, you've probably all seen it, it is Fourth Wing by Rebecca Yarros. This book has been everywhere. And even though it's just been released, I feel so late to the party talking about this book. Like, I feel like we've already moved on from it on Book Talk and stuff like that. Like, I didn't have time to make a Book Talk video because the consumerism of books has just moved so quickly. Like, this one's hyped right now, on to the next one. But I was very intrigued by this book. Usually when a book is really hyped on Book Talk, I'm interested in it, but I'm not like going out of my way to read it. However, this was a different story. I saw this, I wish I could find I might find the TikTok. No, I'm not going to, that's too much work. I saw a TikTok and it basically described this book as How to Train Your Dragon meets Divergent. And I didn't really like Divergent, but I thought, well, this sounds interesting. And also, I love dragons. I've been on a bit of a House of the Dragon hype right now after the show. So I was very excited to read this book, mainly for the dragons. But also, I just want to also throw in a different sort of book to compare it to. A lot of people were comparing it to The Poppy War, I believe, which I haven't read, so it might very well be like that. But I also got the setting of the world reminded me a lot of Ember and the Ashes by Sabah Tar. If you haven't read that series, it is amazing. I haven't actually finished it. I'm on I haven't read the last book, so that's going to be something, but also I completely forgot what happened. But it is a very similar world, I found. It's set in like this sort of I got the impression of like it was sort of set up as like an ancient Roman type thing, which is where I got the idea for like Ember and the Ashes, because it talked about scribes, healers, and then the warriors. And I thought that was similar, but I could be wrong. This book centers around our protagonist, Violet Sorrengail. Basically, her whole life she is training to be a scribe, but her mother is actually the general of the army, and she actually enlists her to go to the dragon school, which is a very brutal place, and Violet does not want to be there. But she takes it in her stride and she tries her best, and boy does she succeed. One thing I really enjoyed about this book is that my main commentary, I'm a stickler for romance. I love romance, and this romance did not disappoint. It is enemies to lovers. It had all the tension. However, I did think it was a bit rushed. I feel like they could have kept the tension going, because I heard it's going to be about 4 books. I think it could have been longer. Like, I think they could have dragged out the enemies to lovers, like she could have really dragged it out. But that's just me. But it did eat. The enemies to lovers plotline did definitely eat. It ate. I found Violet to be a very likable and relatable character. I loved how she never gave up, which I appreciated. One thing about this book is that I feel like I read it too quickly to fully like absorb the world building. Like, I kept having to flick back to, and that's partly my fault because I do sort of skim read world building, which is really bad, because sometimes I'm just like, well, I'll pick it up later, and then I get into this problem. Like, something I should have benefited while reading this is reading this little top section at the start of the chapter, because I feel like that would have made me guess the ending a lot quicker. I also kind of wish I read it closer to the release date of the next book, just because I need the next book. Like, I need it immediately, but that's a story for another day. I love Xaden, I'm hoping that's how you say his name. I love him so much. New book boyfriend. He was a good character. He was a bit interesting. One thing, I didn't write it on my notes, but one thing I will say is that Violet and Xaden felt like really developed, full-fledged out characters, whereas the side characters I didn't really care for. The only one I did sort of care for was Liam. What happened to him? Not going to talk about it. I just felt like the other characters in this book could be more fledged out, and I'm guessing they will be because it is going to be a series. I have heard it's going to be 5 books, which is a lot. I'm hoping it's not going to get a From Blood and Ash treatment. I hope it gets like Throne of Glass treatment in terms of this 5-book series. I'm excited for it. Yeah. So I do definitely believe that the characters should have been more developed throughout this book. That's probably my biggest critique. But moving on to the most exciting part of this book, the dragons. I fucking love them. I loved that they could talk, which I mentioned. I love that. I just love them. They were so cute. I love the concept that they're like, it sort of reminds me of the wyverns in, what's it called? Air of Fire. Like, you sort of have to earn their love, which I guess is also in Game of Thrones. Like, you have to earn the dragons like respect for them to like, for you to be able to ride them, which I thought was really fun. I love that they're like bonded, and it's sort of like a mating bond in ACOTAR where they can talk to each other. And I love that Xaden, and I thought that was a good like point of tension where you had Xaden and Violet being bonded because their dragons are mated. I thought that was really cute. I also love that basically these 2 dragons, Sagal and Tarn, basically adopted little Endana, the little dragon. That was really cute. I can't wait to read more from this book. I'm so excited for the next book. If you have any recommendations that are like this book with dragons, please let me know. I will eat it up. Obviously not the main ones. Like, I don't want to read about Inkheart. Is it Inkheart? Is that the book I'm thinking of? Is Inkheart a different book? I can't remember. They came out at the same time. Anyway, if it's not like I want like a different book, like not Game of Thrones, not like that. Like, give me like a unique book I probably haven't heard of. Thank you. Also, was not expecting that ending. I was not this is why the dead never stay dead. So Liam is still alive. Liam is still alive. Because in this series, the dead is never dead. Until I see a body, they're not dead. So I finished the Magnolia Park series. Well, it's not finished because it's an unfinished series, but I'm up to date. And oh my god, this book. For those who don't know, Magnolia Parks follows the lives of socialites in London. Specifically, Magnolia Parks, BJ Ballantyne, Daisy Haites, and Christian Hems. These people need therapy. And they're rich. So they can afford therapy, but they don't. And that's something we need to unpack. Each book centers around a specific character. So we have Magnolia Parks and then Daisy Haites. Daisy Haites. And within these books, we not only get Magnolia's and Daisy's point of views, but we also get their love interest point of views, which is BJ and Christian. I had such an overwhelming time reading this book. If you've watched my last videos, you've probably gathered that you probably think I don't like them by the way I talk about them. I really do love them. It's just the characters are just sometimes, which what makes me want to read this book more, is that the characters can be so annoying and just every wrong decision there is, they make them. They make all of the bad decisions, and there are things that they do, specifically characters I talk about a lot that I don't really like is Magnolia and BJ. Like, they just don't think, these two characters. They don't use their little brains. And that's what pisses me off. But nevertheless, I'm going to talk about the last two books. This book, Long Way Home, reignited, made me actually like BJ for once. I actually liked him reading this book, and I feel bad for him. I feel bad for him more than I feel bad for Magnolia after reading this, because I just feel like he just can't catch a break. I'm kidding. I still like Magnolia. I like Magnolia just because she's fucking insane. But BJ, I actually felt bad for him. And also in this book, guess what? He finally went to therapy. Round of applause. Round of applause. He finally went to therapy. I feel for them. I feel for this couple, like BJ and Magnolia. I really do. But they just keep putting themselves... It's like they're trapped in this weird cycle of them dating other people, cheating on those other people with each other, breaking up, and then breaking up their relationships, getting back together, and then something goes wrong, some person says the wrong thing, and then they break up again, and then they start dating other people, and it's just like, it's the same thing, and it's like, how do these people have friends? Like, how does BJ and Magnolia honestly have friends? Because if I was in their friend group, if I was Henry and Jonah, I would be furious 24/7 because of these two. I'd have a vein popping out of my forehead just from the stress of being friends with these people. But this book actually gave me more insight into their characters that I didn't feel like I had in the first book, which I appreciated. I definitely needed that. Otherwise, I don't think I would have been able to continue reading from Magnolia's and BJ's POV if I didn't have those extra tidbits into their past, because I was like, why? And it really answered a lot of things, specifically like the whole baby situation. It did answer a lot of questions I had, and why I thought why these characters were so connected and why they were so enmeshed, if that makes sense. Another character I feel like we need to talk about, who is Julian. Julian is the brother of Daisy Haites, and we also get his POV in Daisy's books. When he showed up, I was not expecting this love story, and I did ship them, but I sort of knew it was going to end badly, as it did, as we now know from reading this book. I knew it was going to end badly. I still liked the relationship between Julian and Magnolia. I wasn't expecting it, but I liked the tension it created. However, everyone on TikTok always talked about how much they love Julian, and I didn't really feel that in this book. I definitely felt it in the second book, in the Daisy Haites book, The Great Undoing. I definitely liked him more, but not so much in this book. In this book, he really appeared to be like a dick, in my opinion. Yeah, he was sort of meh in this book. Another thing I didn't like was the character of Jordan, who is BJ's girlfriend. I felt at the beginning, all throughout, like towards the end, she had a throwaway line about how she was just going to, she was just using the relationship for followers, which, okay. But I kind of wish she could have been a really good character, I think. Like, she would have had so much tension. Like, I felt like she could have been not so much being in a relationship with BJ, but I felt like she was sort of a wasted potential. Like, they could have done this. Instead, they just made Magnolia and Jordan hate each other, sort of thing. I just wish she was written better. I just wish she had more substance to her, because she seemed really like plain and boring, like just a girlfriend character, and I hate when that happens in books, but like she was a means to an end, basically. Something else I've been theorizing throughout this book is that because she's going to do spin-off, Jessa Hastings is going to do spin-off books, and I'm starting to see the seeds of like where it's going to go. So I'm guessing Jonah is getting a book, and I'm hoping Jonah's love. I wrote a note, which I don't think is going to happen now, but I kind of want Bridget and Jonah to be together. I just thought that would be a really good, have good tension. But after reading this book, and when I found out what happened to dear old Bridget, I can't believe it. I thought we were in the clear with this car accident. But no, Bridget is dead. And I just, like, I thought everything was going to go, I thought it truly is a long way home. But I truly thought they were in the clear, and then they just killed Bridget. I'm hoping she's not dead, because I was hoping we'd get clarity in this book, but we didn't. I'm hoping she's not dead, because I loved her so much. Bridget was probably my favorite character, and she was sort of, her storyline in the future was like why I was pushing myself to go forward with this series, because I wanted to know what happened to Bridget, and then they just killed her. She just died, and that is truly devastating. And that's all I'm going to say about The Long Way Home. I did enjoy it a lot more than the Magnolia Parks book, mainly because I'm so happy we got more information about these characters. Also, I feel like Magnolia is just as bad as BJ, and BJ gets all the hate and Magnolia doesn't. And that's sexism. I'm kidding. Every time I finish a Magnolia Parks book and I get to read a Daisy book, it is like a breath of fresh air. I love Daisy's books. I love Christian and Daisy. I think they're a really good couple. I think they complement each other well. They understand each other very well. They understand their worlds very well. And in this book, I also feel like I didn't get as much Daisy and Christian. Like, this was very much a book of them growing within, like, specifically Daisy, like her growing in herself, and Christian sort of realizing what he actually wants in life. Also, I just want to talk about this cover. I've talked about it before, but this is like my favorite cover ever. It's my favorite book cover ever. I just love it so much. I want it like framed in my house. That sounds weird. But weirdly, I felt like this book had a weird emphasis on, like, obviously we got Julian's POV before, but Julian was such obvious, and because he had this thing with Magnolia, his character, I feel like his character shined a lot more than Daisy and Christian's, which I was especially Christian's, like I felt like Christian was barely in this book, like we barely got Christian's point of view. Anyway, and I feel like Julian really took the stage, and I was just like, why can't Jessa Hastings just write a book for Julian? Just write his own book and not encroach on Daisy's. I want Daisy's POV and Christian's. I will say I did like Julian a lot more in this book, but I still think he deserves his own love interest. I kind of don't like the idea of him just secretly pining for Magnolia. He's getting the Will Herondale treatment. Not a fan. I want him to have his own love interest and someone that, like, understands the world, his world, like, because I don't think he's going to stop being a gangster, you know? He's not going to stop being a gang lord in this house. I don't know why I said that. So I'm trying to theorize. Apparently we've already met her. So I'm just trying to work that out, who it could be. I think I'm under the suspicion that it's what's his name, Romeo, and what's the Carmelo's sister, Gia. I'm theorizing that it's her because apparently she was his first love, or he was her first love. I think it was pretty one-sided, but that's what I'm thinking of. And Jonah's book is going to be, I don't think it's going to be Tora's book. I think Jonah's going to get with this girl called Bianca, who was mentioned, who went to Italy with them, I'm pretty sure. That's my theory. I freaking love Christian. I'm so upset. I just feel like Christian didn't get enough time in this book. And I didn't really understand some of their arguments. Like the whole like that Daisy and Christian had over Christian getting his video leaked. Like, why was she, like, I don't understand why Daisy was that mad. Because if I was Daisy, I wouldn't have been mad about that. And I just thought it was, like, unnecessary. Something I will say about Jessa Hastings' books is that a lot of the character tensions and a lot of the situations I think are just unnecessary and don't need to happen. Like, I don't know how to describe it, but that sums it up, basically. I need the next book immediately. I just want to know what happens to Bridget. And yeah, so to wrap it up, my favorite character is Bridget. I'm hoping she's not dead, followed by Daisy, then Christian, then Tora, then Henry, then Jonah, then Julian, then BJ, and Magnolia. I'm not a fan. Yeah, not a Magnolia Parks fan, to BH. She just gets on my nerves. And I think it's because she reminds me a bit of my sister. And that's all I'm going to say on Magnolia. Anyway, thank you so much for watching. I do apologize if this video was weird. It definitely was, but I appreciate you for sticking around nonetheless. Thanks so much for watching. Have a wonderful week, and see you next Tuesday with another video. Also, I'm going to Europe soon, and I'm so excited. Yeah, that's all I gotta say. Thanks so much for watching. If you like this video, please like and subscribe. Give me all the love you can. Thank you. Bye.